ओम परतत्वे सदा लीनो रामकृष्ण समाज्ञया यो धर्म स्थापन रतो वीरेशम तम नमाम्यहम. We are studying Swami Vivekananda's Raj Yoga, and we are in the second chapter called the first steps, and we have dealt with Yama and Niyama and Asana. And then before Pranayama, Swamiji has introduced another topic similar to Pranayama, that is called Nadi Shuddhi. And Nadi Shuddhi also is over. And then Swamiji talks of two obstructions. One obstruction is unhealthy body. And about that, we should only remember to keep body fit and have positive faith that my body is fit. About this, let me tell you one incident. Beautiful incident. How much it will not apply to us, but we have to understand. It will apply. The degree will be different. Holy Mother came to Dakshineshwar. Age was about 18 years. And Thakur instructed her about dhyan, meditation. We do not know what details he taught. But he told her that when you sit for meditation, first raise a bhavana that your body is healthy and that your posture is strong, firm. You understand this point? That suppose we have some minor ailments or major ailments. When we sit for meditation, then they trouble us more. When the mind tries to become concentrated, all these small things trouble us. Now when we proceed, then they will not trouble us. But in the beginning, they have to be conquered by bhavana. You have to raise a feeling that my body is all right. And secondly, sit also. When we sit, always it becomes unfirm. So my asana is firm. No, Holy Mother heard it. Then in the afternoon, you have seen Nawad. So in front of that place, she brought her asana and sat on it and remembered what Thakur had said. But when she tried to think like that, her mind or inner knowledge, whatever you call, revolted. What were revolted? Is the body mine to think that it is healthy or not? Vocally we say everything belongs to God. Then how can the body be mine? When she heard it is all right, but when she tried to think, she could not think like that. And not only that, her mind soared so high that she went beyond body consciousness immediately. And then entered the realm of spiritual experiences. And for a few moments, you may say she enjoyed or she experienced. Then another current came from within. Am I the experiencer? You know this. According to Vedanta, the only experiencer is God. We are reflections more. So she experienced spiritual experiences and felt joy, but within a few moments she thought, am I the experiencer? And I was lost. And she entered Nirvikalpa Samadhi. Thakur had gone towards Jautala or somewhere. When he came back, he saw this bashful lady, all that, what we call, veil, all that, it was flowing in air. Not only she had no body consciousness, she had no eye. And when Thakur entered Nirvikal Samadhi, he was sitting in the hut and Tota locked the hut so that people should not disturb him. Now here he is sitting in the open. So Thakur stood there, guarding, but then remained standing. So after some time, there is a prakriya of bringing the mind back. Tota did that for Thakur. That is, either you shout Om so that the whole atmosphere becomes filled with Om, or you take your mouth near the ears and say Om Om. So Thakur chanted Om Om loudly. Then she came back to consciousness. And immediately same bashfulness, seeing Thakur, she put on the veil and went in there, the novel. So this is, I remembered it because this is for us. Thakur told the same thing to her, but the result was totally different. So here Thakur is talking of, Swami Vivekananda is talking of Christian Science. Christian Science was very much popular in America when Swamiji went there. It is nothing but faith healing. That means we believe in Christ, we are Christians, we believe our body is strong and we become strong. So Swamiji says, always use a mental effort, what is usually called Christian Science, to keep the body strong, healthy rather. That is all, nothing further of the body. But to make body healthy, if you pour so much attention on body, then it is gone, like Hatha Yoga. But a little help is necessary. Now the second difficulty is obstruction, is doubt. And that para which we are reading, the last I have taken up again. The second obstruction is doubt. Got it? We always feel doubtful about things we do not see. Man cannot live upon words, however he may try. So doubt comes to us as to whether there is any truth in these things or not. Even the best of us will doubt sometimes. What is the reply? With practice, within a few days, a little glimpse will come, enough to give one encouragement and hope. So the only answer is practice. And by practice, some supersensuous experience will come. So you will know that this science is not wrong. That is the only way. Now about doubt in general, let us talk a little more. Those who have been initiated by revered Swami Ranganathananji, he gave the instruction book. Everybody gives the instruction. In that he has clearly mentioned that we will have many, many doubts when we begin. And 50% of the doubts will vanish if we read proper books, like Gospel or Swami Vivekananda's works. Then 50% of the doubts will vanish. That means on the level of intellect. Then as you practice, the doubts will reduce, he says. As you practice, the doubts will become less and less. And finally, doubt will 100% vanish only when you realize. Vidyate hridaya granthi chidyante sarva sanshaya. Mundaka Upanishad tells. Hi ante chasya karmani tasmin drishte paravare. When you realize Nirgun Sagun Brahma, then only no doubt remains. So here, doubt solution is practice. And by practice you get some supersensuous experience. And Swamiji has given two examples of supersensuous experience here. For instance, after the first few months of practice, till then with tenacity and faith we have to proceed. You will begin to find you can read another's thoughts. They will come to you in picture form. Last time you were there, present, both of you? No. I told that incident, about Turiyanji's telling how Swamiji taught us. Make the mind blank, look at the other person, his thoughts will come to you. But this after practice of concentration for some time. Then, second, perhaps you will hear something happening at a long distance. When you concentrate your mind with a wish to hear. This was happening in Swamiji's time, Swamiji's life. You know that. In Swamiji's life it is mentioned. During his initial practice, very beginning, after coming to Thakur, that he suddenly, at such and such place, people are talking such and such thing. That means it involves both Dur Darshan and Dur Shravan. And because his mind was scientific means believing in matter actually, he used to go and verify. And I found that it is correct every time. But this started disturbing his meditation. So he went to Thakur and asked him what is it to do. Thakur told him, don't meditate for some time. Let you get a power to control this disturbance. Then meditate again. But here he mentions it, that it will come and you will get faith that I am proceeding rightly, that much. Then he warns that don't indulge more in this. But enough to give you faith and strength and hope. For instance, third thing is giving, third thing. Reading thoughts, Doordarshan, third. For instance, if you concentrate your thoughts on the tip of your nose, in a few days you will begin to smell most beautiful fragrance, which will be enough to show you that there are certain mental perceptions that can be made obvious without the contact of physical objects. This, I told you, leaves another big field for us. That means whether the outside world exists or not, people have doubt. Those who believe in outside world say that unless there is outside world, how do you get variety of experience? To that, this is an answer. Without the outside world, by proper concentration, you can have so many experiences. In the third chapter in Patanjali, so many things are mentioned. So then what is the need of outside world? Anyway, but now we are following only the concentration part. You understand this point? Nobody can prove that there is a world outside. Now take science, optics. What is shown? You have seen how we see this glass. It shows some rays entering here, and that entering here, and that entering there. Haven't you seen that? Has anybody seen it? Can we see the rays? What we know is only our reaction. Rajogi will tell us. Suppose there are rays, and suppose some current goes inside, and suppose it goes to intellect, and then our person, consciousness, reacts on that. That much only we know. Our perception is only about our reaction to the stimuli. If you want further on this subject, there is a small book, you note down, name if you like. British author, C.E.M. Joad. C.E.M. Joad, J-O-A-D. The book name is Philosophical Aspects of Modern Science. Philosophical Aspects of Modern Science. So there is a big school in England. They are called the idealists. Idealist. That means the world is not there outside, only there are ideas in our mind. Because we do not know if there is world outside. So the argument for the outside world is that if there was no variety, how could I have experienced variety? To that, this is a big answer. We can experience everything by concentrating here, there. We can experience any smell you like, any taste you like. So, no need of outside world. Now, these are the three things he has given for faith, doubt to go away. But we must always remember that these are only the means. The aim, the end, the goal of all this training is liberation of the soul. So they have nothing to do with that. But only to get rid of doubt. Otherwise, mystery mongering starts. We get lost in these things only. Supersensuous experience is a bigger field than sensuous experience. Absolute control of nature and nothing short of it must be the goal. We must be the masters and not the slaves of nature. Neither body nor mind must be our master, nor must we forget that the body is mine and not I the body. That means I am the master, body is the instrument given to me. Body is not the man, I am not the slave of the body. This you must always remember. Otherwise, people become so much subjugated to the body. Little this, little that, they lose all their thing and go beyond the body. For this, Swamiji is now illustrating. A god and a demon went to learn about this self from a great sage. Now, one thing here I remember, I have been telling that Patanjali's Yoga Sutra is incomplete science. Swamiji's Raj Yoga is complete. This is from the Upanishads. Both Chandogya and Brihadaranyaka have this story. And Swamiji is quoting that story. A god and a demon went to learn about the self from a great sage. They studied with him for a long time. You want the full story? Prajapati gave a declaration that I have a knowledge which will make you permanently happy, something like that. No misery. So the declaration went here and there. Gods learnt about it, demons learnt about it. Then the king of the gods, Indra, he said, I will go and learn and I will teach others. Demon's king was Virocha. He said, I will go. And they always were competitors of each other. So without telling each other, they went to Prajapati. And stayed 32 years with him before he spoke to them. And after 32 years, he is asking why you have come. And then they say, we heard this declaration of yours. Then he took them to a pond of water. Look at it. That person in your eye is your reality. That was the instruction. Now the story follows. They studied with him for a long time. At last the sage told them, you yourselves are the being you are seeking. He said that inside your eyes is that being, your reality. Both of them thought that their bodies were the self. They went back to their people quite satisfied and said, we have learnt everything that was to be learned. Eat, drink and be merry. We are the self, there is nothing beyond us. That is Virochan. Indra also felt like that, but he did not go back. He was going back to the gods. In between he thought this is not correct. Because if I fall sick, body falls sick, then what will happen? The nature of the demon was ignorant, clouded, so he never inquired any further, but was perfectly contented with the idea that he was God. That by the self was meant the body. The God had a purer nature. He at first committed the mistake of thinking, I, this body, am Brahman, so keep it strong and in health and well dressed. And he showed them in the water and then said, you clean yourself, dress properly, remove your nails and again see. Do you see any difference? He wanted to show that body is not the self. It will appear differently, it will appear differently. Can that be self? Inside your eyes is this reality. But they thought that this is the lesson. So keep it strong and in health and well dressed and give it all sorts of enjoyment. But in a few days he found out that that could not be the meaning of the sage, their master. There must be something higher. So he came back and said, Sir, did you teach me that this body was the self? If so, I see all bodies die. The self cannot die. That is the idea of the self. Something permanent has to be there, no? And body changing every day. The sage said, find it out, thou art that. Then the God thought that the vital forces which work the body were what the sage meant. But after a time he found that if we ate, these vital forces remain strong. But if we starve, they become weak. The God then went back to the sage and said, Sir, do you mean that the vital forces are the self? The sage said, find out for yourself. 32 years every time Indra was living there. 3 times 32 and lastly 5. So 101 years he stayed. Then he got the knowledge. The God returned home once more. In the original story, he never reached home. In between, in the road itself, he used to feel and come back. Once more, thinking that it was the mind, perhaps, that was the self. But in a short while, he saw that thoughts were so various, now good, again bad. The mind was too changeable to be the self. He went back to the sage and said, Sir, I do not think that the mind is the self. Did you mean that? No, replied the sage. Thou art that. Find out for yourself. The God went home and at last found that he was this self. Beyond all thought, one without birth or death, whom the sword cannot pierce or the fire burn, whom the air cannot dry or the water melt, the beginningless and endless, the immovable, the intangible, the omniscient, the omnipotent being, that it was neither the body nor the mind, but beyond them all. So he was satisfied. But the poor demon did not get the truth owing to his fondness for the body. So Swamiji's warning, don't get fondness for the body. This world has a good many of these demonic natures, but there are some gods too within men. If one proposes to teach any science to increase the power of sense enjoyment, one finds multitudes ready for it. If one undertakes to show the supreme goal, one finds few to listen to him. In Christianity, there is a saying, the gate of hell is very big and the road is very broad and so many are going. And the gate to heaven is narrow and the path is narrow. One only enters at a time. Very few have the power to grasp the higher, understand? Huh? Few are still the patience to attain to it. But there are a few also who know that even if the body can be made to live for 1,000 years, the result in the end will be the same. When the forces that hold it together go away, the body must fall. No man was ever born who could stop his body one moment from changing. Body is the name of a series of changes. As in a river, the masses of water are changing before you every moment, and new masses are coming, yet taking similar form. So is it with this body. You understand this point? Doctors tell you that after 12 years, not a single original cell remains. The change does not occur by jump. One cell is changed today, another cell is changed tomorrow, and they take the similar form. If you have a black spot, next cell will also have a black spot. So we do not find the change. So what is the name of a series of changes? Now in the river, we call it anything, Ganga or Yamuna. Which is Ganga? Water is continuously flowing. Even the banks are changing. Original Ganga is near, Kalighat. This Ganges, which we believe, is called Hooghly by people. So the course changes, the banks change, the water changes, but there is a concept in the mind. Same thing about individual body. Nobody can tell this is my body. As the food, when you are eaten, it becomes body. And when you throw away, when you cut your hair, it is not your body. So which is your body? Any individual cannot define this is my body. Mass of changes. Yet the body must be kept strong and healthy. It is the best instrument we have. On this, again let me tell an anecdote. Mahapurush Maharaj, if the doctor would ask him, how are you, Maharaj? He would point out the sevak, ask him, he knows better. He is not aware of what is happening in his body. The sevak is saying. Once for 3 nights he had no sleep. The main problem was asthma. He had diabetes and many things in the old age. But the main problem was asthma, breathing problem. So he could not sleep, he could not even sitting. So some devotee heard about it and he came to see. And he was sitting calmly, joyfully, peacefully. How are you, Maharaj? He said, I am fine, grand. They said, I have heard that 3 nights you did not sleep. Then as if climbing from first floor to ground floor is, oh, you are talking about the body. Yes, body has become old. There are 6 changes in the body. the body is going towards the last stage. That means it will die. Sometimes I do not know also that I have a body. But after saying this, but I do not neglect the ODSC. What the doctor tells, what you people say, I follow. And then he patted his own body. But there is one speciality here. Living in this body, I touch Thakur. Living in this body, Thakur is doing his work. So that is how they look upon the body. You understood? Yet the body must be kept strong and healthy. It is the best instrument we have. We are not identified with it. It is an instrument. This human body is the importance of human body now. This human body is the greatest body in the universe, and a human being the greatest being. Man is higher than all animals, than all angels. None is greater than man. What is this angels? What we call devatas, the Christianity, they call angels. Even the devas, gods, will have to come down again and again and attain to salvation through a human body. Man alone attains to perfection, not even the devas. According to the Jews, and no, Swamiji, in Hinduism this is well known, but Swamiji is explaining to others. So he will tell some stories for this conclusion. According to the Jews and Mohammedans, God created man after creating the angels and everything else. And after creating man, he asked the angels to come and salute him. And all did so except Iblis. So God cursed him and he became Satan. So this is a mythological story. Swami says the meaning is this, that man is the highest. Behind this allegory is the great truth that this human birth is the greatest birth we can have. The lower creation, the animal, is dull and manufactured mostly out of tamas. Animals cannot have any high thoughts, nor can the angels or devas attain to direct freedom without human birth. In human society, in the same way, too much, now in the same way, Swami is pointing in the human society. In the human society, in the same way, too much wealth or too much poverty is a great impediment to the higher development of the soul. It is from the middle classes that the great ones of the world come. Here the forces are very equally adjusted and balanced. In a relative way, I just told this. Exceptions are always there, but within human society. Exceptions are always there. Narad is called Devarshi, Rishi among the gods. But they are exceptions. In Puranas, you will find many stories that animals also have some instinctive spirituality. Returning to our subject, so this had come from that body and doubt and all that. Now the subject is Yama, Niyama, Asana over, Nadishuddhi over, now we come to Pranayama. Returning to our subject, we come next to Pranayama, controlling the breathing. What has that to do with concentrating the powers of the mind? Breath is like the flywheel of this machine, the body. Flywheel, you know? In any machine, take cycle for example, for flywheel. You have seen one small wheel that turns and makes the bigger wheel change. In any machinery, whether electrical driven or anything, there is a small wheel. Then it's a fixed like this in a bigger wheel. Then it turns and that turns. Then that may be fixed in a still bigger wheel. So by the energy is transmitted to the first wheel and others secondarily get it. That is called the flywheel. Breath is like the flywheel of this machine, the body. In a big engine, you find the flywheel first moving, and that motion is conveyed to finer and finer machinery until the most delicate and finest mechanism in the machine is in motion. The other way around also. Small to big or big to small. The breath is that flywheel supplying and regulating the motive power to everything in this body. Was that another story? There was once a minister to a great king. He fell into disgrace. The king, as a punishment, ordered him to be shut up in the top of a very high tower. This was done, and the minister was left there to perish. He had a faithful wife, however, who came to the tower at night and called to her husband at the top to know what she could do to help him. He told her to return to the tower the following night and bring with her a long rope, some stout twine, pack thread, silken thread, a beetle, and a little honey. Wondering much, the good wife obeyed her husband and brought him the desired articles. The husband directed her to attach the silken thread firmly to the beetle, then to smear its horns with a drop of honey, and to set it free on the wall of the tower, with its head pointing upwards. She obeyed all these instructions, and the beetle started on its long journey. Smelling the honey ahead, it slowly kept onwards in the hope of reaching the honey, until at last it reached the top of the tower, when the minister grasped the beetle and got possession of the silken thread. He told his wife to tie the other end to the pack thread. And after he had drawn up the pack thread, he repeated the process with the stout twine, and lastly with the rope. Then the rest was easy. The minister descended from the tower by means of the rope and made his escape. In this body of ours, the breath motion is the silken thread. By laying hold of and learning to control it, we grasp the pack thread of the nerve currents, and from these, this stout twine of our thoughts, and lastly the rope of prana, controlling which we reach freedom. So prana is not breath. Prana is the finest energy working in us. And we want to go beyond that energy. So through breath, nerve currents, and then thoughts and prana, controlling which we reach freedom. We do not know anything about our own bodies. We cannot know. At best we can take a dead body. Western science, At best we can take a dead body and cut it in pieces. And there are some who can take a live animal and cut it in pieces in order to see what is inside the body. Now the study of biology begins with cutting frogs. And the biggest medical researches are made by killing monkeys. Hundreds of monkeys are exported from India to foreign countries. Hundreds. They will make a hole in the monkey's brain and put acid there. Suppose they have put here and the right hand moves. Then this center controls the right hand. If some other place that is put, what moves? And we think that the same thing happens in us. That is the Western science. It is called vivisection. Vivisection means different cutting of the animal body to understand human body. or postmortem. Postmortem you can understand some physiology, but or what disease that caused that, so that is postmortem, or the living animals. And by inference you apply it to your own body. The Ayurveda was not like that. In this way, by concentrating the mind, you find out which portion of the body is disorder, where the pranas are not functioning properly. And the pranas can be made to function properly there, the body will be healthy. That is the basis of Ayurveda. And there are some who will cut a alive animal and cut it in pieces in order to see what is inside the body. Still, that has nothing to do with our own bodies. We know very little about them. Why do we not? Because our attention is not discriminating enough to catch the very fine movements that are going on within. We can know of them only when the mind becomes more subtle and enters, as it were, deeper into the body. To get the subtle perception, we have to begin with the grosser perception. We have to get hold of that which is setting the whole engine in motion. That is the prana. The most obvious manifestation of which is the breath. Other prana is moving subtle, thoughts and everywhere, we do not know. Then along with the breath, we shall slowly enter the body, which will enable us to find out about the subtle forces, the nerve currents that are moving all over the body. As soon as we perceive and learn to feel them, we shall begin to get control over them and over the body. The mind is also set in motion by these different nerve currents, so at last we shall reach the state of perfect control over the body and the mind, making both our servants. Knowledge is power. You understand? If you know a thing, we can control it. We have to get this power. Otherwise, everything is blind. So we must begin at the beginning with pranayama, restraining the prana. This pranayama is a long subject and will take several lessons to illustrate it thoroughly. We shall take it part by part. Here again, Patanjali mentions only pranayama, one sutra. But Swamiji had dealt with in great detail, great detail. You know, I had a friend in Rishikesh who came from, in Bihar, in Munger, there is a school of yoga. And to learn Vedanta, he came to Rishikesh. I met him recently also, great Swami, Asangananda. So he told me this Patanjali is nothing, you have to read so many other works. Gheranda Sangita and that Taravali and this and that. So the textbook is like Patanjali, but there are so many other things. And Swamiji, Shankaracharya, they were past masters in yoga. Thakur taught them. So Swamiji has dealt 3 chapters on prana. Prana, psychic prana and control of psychic prana. 3 chapters. So Yama, Niyama, Asana and Pranayama beginning, first chapter. We shall gradually see the reasons for each exercise and what forces in the body are set in motion. All these things will come to us, but it requires constant practice, and the proof will come by practice. Again and again he mentions it every day. No amount of reasoning which I can give you will be proved to you until you have demonstrated it for yourself. As soon as you begin to feel these currents in motion all over you, doubts will vanish. But it requires hard practice every day. You must practice at least twice every day. At least twice, huh? And the best times are toward the morning and the evening. When night passes into day and day into night, a state of relative calmness ensues. You know, Rajoguna is over, Tamoguna is starting. In between is Sattoguna. Tamoguna is over, Rajoguna is starting. In between is Sattoguna. Now it does not follow the clock pattern. Sunrise, roughly 45 minutes before sunrise, 42 or 43 minutes before sunrise, up to sunrise. This is called Brahma Muhurta. Similarly, sunset and about 40 minutes after sunset. This is called the evening, Sandhya. Sandhya means the junction, day to night or night to day. Evening now, we have to move our watch time. Relative calmness. The early morning and the early evening are the two periods of calmness. Your body will have a like tendency to become calm at those times. Nature is calm, body will become calm. And if you meditate at that time, you can extend that calmness. We should take advantage of that natural condition and begin then to practice. Make it a rule not to eat unless you have practiced. If you do this, the sheer force of hunger will break your laziness. Sometimes the reverse happens. When we are hungry, we are not able to meditate. Anyway, but this is a practice, common Indian practice. In India, they teach children never to eat until they have practiced or worshipped. And it becomes natural to them after a time. A boy will not feel hungry until he has bathed and practiced. Anyway, those of you who can afford it will do better to have a room for this practice alone. Thakurgar or mandir or meditation room. Do not sleep in that room. It must be kept holy. You must not enter the room until you have bathed and are perfectly clean in body and mind. Place flowers in that room always. They are the best surroundings for a yogi. Also pictures that are pleasing. Burn incense morning and evening. Practical lessons. Have no quarreling, nor anger, nor unholy thoughts in that room. Only allow those persons to enter it who are of the same thought as you. Then gradually there will be an atmosphere of holiness in the room. So that when you are miserable, sorrowful, doubtful, or your mind is disturbed, the very fact of entering that room will make you calm. This you have seen? In houses, there is a Thakurgar, and any trouble, any weeping, they enter the Thakurgar. Because that Thakurgar is made holy by constantly practicing there. So when at a disturbed condition, they enter there and find peace. Now this is vanishing slowly from India. This was the idea of the temple and the church. And in some temples and churches you will find it even now. But in the majority of them, the very idea has been lost. Our temples are different from other temples. What is the main difference? Tell me. Ramakrishna Mission temples and other temples, what is the main difference? One is cleanliness, the other is calmness. If you enter other temples, so much galata, so much will go on. Our temples are calm. We have to sit and meditate. Some of our temples, new temples, are called Dhyan temples. Chandigarh temple is called Meditation Hall. And Aurangabad temple is called Dhyana Mandir. So, we are inviting people to sit. I will tell you an experience, wonderful experience. In Mysore, other than the ashrama, there is another campus, Vidyashala campus. There is a Vidyashala also is further off, B.Ed college. Now they have a shrine, a different type of shrine. And 40, 50 asanas like that circular are kept there. Now I had taken my boys, that is Ramakrishna Mission students from Chennai, studying diploma in mechanical engineering. Monkeys like I will tell, so restless. But the moment we enter there, they all sat on the seats and tried to meditate. So very atmosphere becomes like that. I remember vividly. As we entered, we are going seeing things. As we entered that, boys sat on the seats. So that is the temple, that is the Thakur Ghar. The idea is that keeping holy vibrations there, the place becomes and remains illuminated. Those who cannot afford to have a room set apart can practice anywhere they like. Sit in a straight posture, and the first thing to do is to send, this is another thought, thought in Ramakrishna Mission. This is Buddhistic origin. Sit in a straight posture, and the first thing to do is to send a current of holy thought to all creation. Mentally repeat, let all things be happy, let all beings be peaceful, let all beings be blissful. Sarvetra Sukhina Santu, you know that. Write down otherwise. Sarvetra Sukhina Santu, Sarve Santu Niramaya. Then Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kachit Dukkham Apnuyat. That is the prayer. So do to you the east, south, north and west. The more you do that, the better you will feel yourself. That is the fun. You will find at last the easiest way to make ourselves healthy is to see that others are healthy. And the easiest way to make ourselves happy is to see that others are happy. Our Akhandan Swamiji had a great experience. In Belur Math, there is no electric current. Not Belur Math, Alamada or somewhere. They had that fans means cloth hanging like on the roof. And somebody sits and moves them. Now all were sleeping in that hall and nobody was able to sleep because of sweating and hot. Then Akhandan Swami thought, when I am not able to get sleep, let me help others. And he sat at the end and moved that fan. Then others felt sleepy and he also slept. All his heat vanished by moving fan on others. Because there is a universal mind, universal matter. All of us are connected there. And this one should understand. The easiest way to make ourselves happy is to see that others are happy. After doing that, those who believe in God should pray, not for money, not for health, not for heaven. Pray for knowledge and light. Every other prayer is selfish. Practice Swamiji telling us, everyday practice. Then the next thing to do is to think of your own body and see that it is strong and healthy. It is the best instrument you have. Think of it as being as strong as adamant, and that with the help of this body, you will cross the ocean of life. Freedom is never to be reached by the weak. Throw away all weakness. Tell your body that it is strong. Tell your mind that it is strong. and have unbounded faith and hope in yourself. So you finished one lesson, and now the third chapter will be prana. This was, along with the other things, you have come up to pranayama. And then the fourth chapter will be psychic prana. And then the fifth will be control of the psychic prana. 3 chapters on prana only. Psychic means in the mind. Then pratyahara and dharana, Swamiji will post. So Swamiji's Rajoga is a very different science than Patanjali. Om Paratatve Sada Lino Ramakrishna Samagyaya Yo Dharma Sthapana Rato Viresham Tam Namamyaham. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.